welcome to our channel. Today I take immense pleasure in presenting before you our special guest for today, Dr. Deblina Chakraborty. I met Deblina during an online postdoc career event organized by the German Research Center, where she presented an extremely interesting and helpful talk about transitioning from academia to industry. First, a little about Deblina. She completed her undergrad studies in biotechnology from West Bengal University of Technology, followed by a master's from the Indian Institute of Technology in Guwahati. Afterwards, she followed it up with a PhD in immunology from the CIM-IMPRS graduate school at the University of Münster in Germany. Needless to state that she is an extremely talented, hardworking, and has always been one of the top students. After finishing PhD, Deblina worked briefly as a postdoc and then transitioned to industry as an in-house clinical research associate. She has been promoted multiple times, and since last year, she has been working as a clinical biosamples operations expert in a renowned pharma company. I have linked her LinkedIn profile below in case you are interested. Owing to her vast experience both in academia and industry, Deblina is an expert when it comes to guiding us navigate the hurdles of academia as well as transitioning to industry. In other words, there is a lot to learn from her experiences. She has kindly consented to take some time out of her busy schedule today to answer a few questions about her experience studying and working in Germany so that you all have a better idea of the process and what to expect. Thank you very much, Deblina, for your time today. So let's get started. So, Deblina, you are working as a research fellow at the Advanced Center for Treatment, Research and Education in Cancer for a year after your master's studies. So, what made you decide to move abroad for your PhD?
Thank you, Bidisha. First of all, thank you for the nice introduction and for inviting me for this podcast today. I hope to help others navigating the hurdles in transition from academia to industry today. So, yeah, for your first question, sometimes it was easier to get resources abroad than at least at that time. This was like more than 10 years back. The resources were better, the easier to get here, abroad, and technological advancements and all. So, which made the duration of PhD shorter outside India. So, for example, sometimes I had to wait for months to get some reagent, and this was much easier here. So that was one of the main things which attracted me for a PhD here. And of course, also the money is better as a PhD. You also earn a bit more abroad. So yeah, all these factors helped.
That's really important information that you provided, and I'm sure that will help out a lot of students who are also struggling to advance their research to make a decision or a conscious decision where they should follow up or continue their research career. Why did you choose Germany? What was it due to the program, or was it due to the supervisor, or any other factors that tilted scales in favor of Germany?
So I did not exactly choose Germany in that way. So I had applied to different universities all over the world. So I remember applying to three US universities, two universities in Germany, and one or two other European countries. So I did not apply to a lot of places at once. I was very selective. So, but I chose like not like Germany to make my application, but also other countries as well. Luckily, I got the interview offer only from two universities in Germany. Luckily, or yeah, unfortunately, I did not receive the offer from other universities. But yeah, these were the CIM-IMPRS. One was this, and the other one was TUM Munich. So I had appeared for interview at both these universities, and finally this happened. So the CIM-IMPRS happened, and yeah, I was very happy because this was a international program, and it was in English, so there was no need to know German. And the environment was very good. It was very student friendly. It's graduate school. So yeah, that kind of attracted. But I did not have this in mind. From the very starting that I will just apply to Germany. So that was not the case. But I was lucky to come to Germany because then everything worked out very well for me in Germany.
And I see that you have obtained a fully funded PhD position from the University of Munster. How challenging was it to apply for a scholarship? Was it what typically was the eligibility criteria? And then how long did you expect the funding in the beginning?
So it was a bit challenging because hundreds of applicants applied to the CIM-IMPRS program. And out of these hundreds of applicants, I think only 30 or 40 people were selected for the interview, for the face-to-face interview in Germany. And when we got this invitation, so everything was paid by the graduate school. So uh, our tickets, our stay, there was there were 3 or 4 days stay. So everything was paid. So that was fine. But yeah, to choose from hundreds of applications, only 30 to 40 people, that was challenging. And when we came here, there were there was a presentation round. The first round was presentation. We had to basically present our previous work, previous research work. So from there, so when you're presenting, you get some points for your presentation, how you're presenting. So those points are added to the points of face-to-face interview with PIs. So after that, I had interviews with 4 PIs. So I had chosen 4 PIs to have interviews with. So they were also giving me points after that interview. And after that interview, the third round was to meet the lab mates of these 4 PIs. So there was also kind of a judgment from those lab people because they interact with you. They also have their opinion of how this person is. And after that, the final decision is made by the PS based on these 3 rounds. So you get points for every rounds, and yeah, then you basically get selected. And out of 30 to 40 people, I think 15 were selected. 15, 16 people were selected. But as soon as you get selected into the CIM-IMPRS program, you are eligible for a scholarship. So the eligibility criteria is to get selected in one of the labs through CIM-IMPRS. Then you get a scholarship for 3 years. And of course, you cannot finish your PhD in 3 years. Some people can, but it took me 4 years to finish. So after 3 years scholarship, then the lab where I was working at, they provided me for this extra 1 year.
Did you feel the need for learning German during your PhD, or was it not an issue at all? How was Munster as a city overall? And can you list some positives and negatives from your experience?
Münster is a city, as I said, very beautiful city. Uh, it's a student city, so um, it's not like a big metro city, and it's very quiet student city where you see a lot of bikes going around. Yeah, compared to the cars. And I would say there were not so many activities to do. There were some activities to do, but mostly people were busy in studying or going to labs. So I was basically busy in yeah, going to lab and all. So of course there was recreational activities. There was not even so much time. Um, what I missed in Münster was that there were not many good Indian restaurants. Of course, I was coming from India, so I was missing that. But as I said, we had a very nice community, also Indian community. So I had a lot of Indian friends as well. So that was also not a problem. So we were meeting each other, and we were also having Indian food, and yeah, we were basically sharing those things about our life. And yeah, German. During my PhD, I did not feel the need because, as I said, it is so CIM-IMPRS is an international graduate school, and your PhD is in English. So the English is a language of science. That's what we say. And so yeah, everything was in English. So even the lab meetings. So yeah, this was very interesting because normally most of the people in my lab were German, but because of me and I think 1 or 2 other people, even the lab meetings were conducted in English. So of course, if so none of the international people would be there, they would conduct in German, but they also adapted in a way to accept international students, and so they were conducted in English. So yeah, it was a very nice environment, and I never felt the pressure to learn German during my PhD. No.
Did you also have to take courses during your PhD, and were those also in German or English?
whatever courses there were, which were important for me, were in English. So the graduate school, whatever courses they were suggesting for us, it was always in English. Even the courses that were supposed to be in German. So, for example, I attended one course which was a Blue Belt Pharma Management course, and that was also adapted for us. Usually, these courses would be in German, but for us, international students, they made it in English.
Okay, that's actually very important information, and I will highlight that in the video description because I get requests from a lot of students about information about trying to pursue a PhD or masters in Germany, and most students have this misconception that it is mandatory to know German to do a PhD in Germany, which I also know is not true. My husband did his PhD in Germany, and then there are plenty of examples that you absolutely don't need any German during PhD. I also, in my lab also, there are PhD students, German PhD students who are doing their PhD in English. So yeah, that's another confirmation coming from you, and that's super helpful. So what were some of the challenges that you faced during your PhD that you think are worth mentioning?
The main challenge during my PhD was that I was trying to establish a method which very few people in Germany had done. Of course, in our PhD, we all do something new which nobody has done. So we all face that challenge. But for me, this challenge was many folds because I was also not getting a lot of help from other groups in Germany. So yeah, that was a challenge. So what I did was I searched for a conference in the US, and in the US they were working on this topic a lot. So I went to this conference. I met a lot of people. Also, there were a lot of people from Germany. So we were all having different kinds of doubts regarding the topic, and yeah, in this international environment, it was easy to then sort out our problems. So this really helped. Apart from that, yeah, I really invested a lot of time, a lot of hours in standardizing this new technique. It was a new cell culture technique that I had to standardize. So that was the part. The second thing is there was a kind of bit of micromanagement, management, especially from a postdoc, which was not so easy for me. So yeah, also that was a challenge in terms of you know interpersonal skills.
Okay, since you mentioned about the challenges of your PhD work, for my next following question would be how would you rate the importance of a supervisor during the PhD? Was your supervisor available for you to meet him over a specified period? Like, did you have regular group meetings or one-on-one meetings, or did you have a postdoc or someone senior to you to assist you? I guess you had, and that's why you mentioned this situation. But what was your PI's role in this whole matter in guiding you or even assigning the postdoc to help you or assist you?
So for me, a role of a PI or a supervisor is very important during a PhD because we are coming after our masters. Of course, we do not have so much research experience. So PhD is a time when we are really trying to evolve, trying to learn for the first time so many techniques at once. And of course, it is going on for some years. So you would need some constant support, encouragement, constant suggestions, ideas. So, of course, a PI, you need a PI who is able to give you all these things, support and encouragement. In that case, I would say my PI was good, my supervisor was good, and I was getting a lot of help, ideas, and encouragement to do things. But again, I think always think that there should be a balance between how much interaction is there between a supervisor and a PhD student. So there were regular meetings, regular one-on-one with my PIs. So there was no shortage of that. But at some point during my PhD, I felt that it was getting too much. As I said, there was micromanagement from the supervisor, from the postdoc. So I would sometimes feel I have no freedom in doing what I wanted to do. Yeah, I mean, of course, they were trying to do something good. On the other hand, a little bit of freedom is also important so that you can also think on your own and try out new things, because that's what a scientist is for. A
This is
scientist has
for.
to think on their own.
Okay, that's good to know. And moving on to life outside work, regarding vacations, how many vacation days were you entitled to take in a year? And even with the standard vacation days that you had, was it easy to approach your PI to get approval for holidays? Or yeah.
So in Germany, usually we are allowed 30 days vacation. So also during PhD, we had a 30 days vacation. Um, but yeah, I was coming straight from India, and we all know in India how it is when you are going to take leave. So you're always very scared of asking your supervisor for leave and not, and you are like, yeah, I will work more, take less leave. I think then it will be better. Then I'll have also papers and all. So I was coming with that mindset in Germany. So that's why even if I had 30 days vacation in a year, I was not taking it. And my other German lab mates, they were encouraging me to take vacations, because they were saying, yeah, you should take vacations, because of course they have grown in an environment where work-life balance is important. So at that time, I did not understand it. I was like, no, I have to finish my paper. I have to do these experiments. So it's okay. I don't need leave. But I was not understanding at that point of time that leave is important also for my mental health. So I would ask other people not to do this. So if you have leave, so if you have 30 days leave, please take this leave. You need it for your mental health. Don't repeat my mistakes, which I did. Um, of course, because I was entitled to a 30 days leave, no employer in Germany would say no, because that is not allowed by the law. So if I'm going to my supervisor and asking him for a leave, he would give me. The problem was with me that I was not approaching my PI with that. So I also left a lot of my leaves, which was not a good thing. But yeah, the only problem which happened was when I was about to submit my thesis. Before that, I wanted a leave. Then my PI asked me to reconsider that. Do you really want to take leave now because you have to submit your thesis? So yeah, that only during that time. But otherwise, in Germany, usually it's not a problem to ask for relief. The employers, yeah, do not want to get on the wrong side of the law, so they will never ask you, oh, no, 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 don't take leave. You cannot take leave.
Yeah, this is completely different from US academic system or work life system. I mean, we didn't even have any holidays as PhD students. We had a summer semester off, but we are not allowed to take that. And it completely dependent on the supervisor if they allowed students to leave. Fortunately, I was extremely lucky because my supervisor allowed me to take a month long vacation to my home in India. And then my husband was living in Germany, so every time he would visit me or I would visit me, that would be another 2 weeks. I was very, very lucky. But most students didn't have it that way. They either had 10 days vacation in a year at most, or maybe they would, international students from India would be allowed to go home once in 3 years for a month or so. But I guess in that respect, Germany stands no comparison. Its work-life balance is extremely valued here. Did your university or institute have a fixed criteria as to how many research articles would you need to publish during your PhD to be awarded the degree, or how many research articles would you have to submit before you can defend?
Actually, there was no criteria. We did not need to have any research articles to get a PhD, which was also a good thing, because there was no pressure on us that, oh, I need a paper, otherwise I will not get my PhD. So that helps you to also again think and evolve in your own way. You are not in a pressure to just publish because for the sake of publishing. You are doing a research because you like it and you want to explore more in this topic, and not because you are forced to publish a paper. So this is very good, I would say. This was very good thing in a university. So when I submitted my thesis, I just had a co-author paper, and yeah, no first author paper, but I was working on my first author paper during that time. But yeah, just a co-author paper. And I know many of my other batchmates, did not have any paper, and they still submitted the thesis. They still got their PhD title. So yeah, that was it.
Okay, so after your PhD, you worked as a postdoc for the next few years. How was it different in comparison to your PhD life? Can you describe briefly what typically are the responsibilities assigned to as a postdoc?
There was a big difference from PhD to postdoc, because as a postdoc, I was, apart from doing experiments and the scientific work, there was also a lot of managerial duties that I was doing. So I was managing some aspects of the lab, as well as the technicians. So planning. So planning was more, of course, experiment was also more, but I was not only planning my experiments, I was planning also experiments of the of students, PhD students and all. And for example, I was in charge of some organizational activities in the lab, cleaning, things like that. And of course, there were some important decisions to be taken for lab organizations, and also the PI was also discussing this with us, postdocs. That's the main difference. So I was not doing any managerial duties during my PhD as such, but in postdoc, you have to do these managerial duties more. So you have to basically manage your people, manage technicians, manage PhD students, manage your own project, of course, and manage other projects as well. And I was also working in collaboration with a lot of people, of course, in PhD as well, but in postdoc, this collaboration was on a larger scale.
And what was the application process for a postdoc position? I mean, did you need any specific list of documents? And how did you choose your postdoc lab? I mean, for example, we learn a lot during our PhD that makes us think that, okay, I made this mistake during my PhD, I will not make this mistake during my postdoc application. Was there something particular that made you, that influenced your decision while choosing your postdoc lab, or what did you make sure to know about the lab where you are going in, to make sure that you are not only going to become successful as a scientist but also happy working in the lab? Is there anything worth mentioning?
When I was applying to my postdoc, I was very focused in applying to a new field, because I wanted to learn even more. And I had this in mind that I'm coming from a different field to a different lab. So I will also bring my own different techniques to the lab, which I can teach the lab as well. So I always thought of this collaboration where I would also learn a lot of new things, and I will also teach them a lot of new things. And I was mainly focusing on oncology. So this was very important for me, that I really wanted to work in oncology field. So when I was choosing my postdoc labs, I was mostly choosing. So I come from an immunology background, but my PhD was not in oncology. So this was in respiratory disease. And I wanted to venture into oncology a bit with my immunology background. So I was kind of focusing on labs which would work on oncology, and where, of course, I would also bring in my techniques. So yeah, basically that was the criteria when I was looking for my postdoc. Sorry, what was the next part of your question?
How did you choose the lab, not just in terms of science but in terms of choosing the supervisors? Did you have multiple interviews with the supervisor? Did you talk to the lab mates? And what about the lab environment, the lab culture, just a feeling about the lab? Did you also make a conscious decision about the lab environment, culture, the PI's mentorship abilities, to make sure that, okay, you're not just going into a lab which does excellent research in oncology, but in a lab which also supports well-being of the postdoc, and you are happy and you are having fun and you are enjoying the process?
Yes, of course. For me, it was important that in the postdoc, I'm given more freedom to use my ideas and all, because as I told you, during my PhD I did not have that freedom that much. So now as a postdoc, I really wanted to have that freedom to think on my own and design my own experiments and do something new in a new environment. So that was very important, that my PI was open to suggestions from me, and I was in an environment where it was encouraged to do new things and bring in new ideas. So this was really important. And after talking to the PI and the lab mates, I understood that, yeah, here I would be able to bring in my own ideas, bring in my techniques. Um, yeah, there won't be micromanaging. This was one important criteria for me, that there won't be micromanaging. So, and of course, another important thing was that the people should be friendly and not rude. So, yeah, this was very important, because if there is a problem with the colleagues, it is very difficult to work in an environment where people are unfriendly and rude. So whenever these postdoc applications happen, so usually there are two rounds of interview. One of them is with the presentation. You have to present your PhD project, and then there are questions. And the second one is a face-to-face interview with the PI, and then always the third part, or the most important part, is meeting the lab mates. I think I appeared for two or three postdoc interviews, and everywhere. So this meeting with the lab mates was an important process. So in DKFZ, where I did my postdoc, I did not have to present my PhD work, but there was a one-on-one interview with the PI, and after that I met the lab mates. So this is a very important part, because here you are meeting people with whom you would be working, so your potential colleagues. So you need to know them, they need to know you, because they also need to have an idea that they can work with you, that you are an amicable personality and they can work with you. So this is also important. So it's both ways. So I was judging them, they were judging me on these bases.
Yeah, I stressed on this question because I find it personally very important that no matter how hard I work or no matter how productive I am, if I'm not happy, if I'm not enjoying the process, if I cannot get along with my colleagues, and if I get sick or there is suddenly an accident, I cannot come to the lab, if I cannot rely on my lab mates to help me or support me during, difficult times, then I'm not going to enjoy the process. And postdoc is not a 1 year term where I can work for 1 year, somehow get through the process and leave. It's a long term commitment. Same for PhD also. And especially students coming from India, they don't think about this. They mostly think about, okay, I got a fully funded scholarship in a foreign university. I will go there, I will adjust, I will manage, I will, do my part, I will work hard and make it work. But it is not always on the students, it is also on the environment, the advisor, the lab mates, and there is nothing you can really do to change that other than really making sure that you know where you are getting into, choosing a lab where you will like to work. So that's why I kind of really stressed on this question, that probably during transitioning to postdoc you made sure that you didn't have the challenges that you faced as a PhD student. um, Moving on to the next question. Since you changed from a student status to postdoc during the initial years, I assume you also changed your visa type from student to a working professional. And was that easy, or did you face any hurdles during your visa extension process?
Yeah. So, of course, yeah, I changed from a student visa to a working visa, but this was a blue card. Some people also say this is like the green card in the US. Well, it's not completely like that, but it is. If you have a blue card, it's like a very highly respectable thing. And when you are a postdoc, you are, of course, you have that educational qualification, and you are also receiving a lot of money compared to your PhD. So this blue card depends on your salary. For me, it was not at all difficult, because the place where I did my postdoc, PKFZ, it's a wonderful institute, and there's a different department which is only for these international students and visa and all those things. So there was this very wonderful lady who would give you all the information. She gave me a list of documents that I would need. I got the blue card within a few months, I think. So it was very easy.
Okay. And you already have a lot of wonderful number of publications during your PhD and postdoc career. So, what made you decide to transition to industry and not continue in academia in a research career?
Yeah, good question. So this realization took some time for me. One of the biggest factors was that my PhD life was very hectic. So I had a protocol which would take sometimes 11, 12 hours a day. And I was like skipping lunch or having very late lunch and absolutely not taking care of my health during that time. And then I had a major accident during working in the this laminar hood, and I could not move my hand for 3 months. I had this some nerve compression thing, and during all these things, I just felt that I think if I continue doing bench work and in academia, it's not good for my health. I mean, of course, it was just my opinion based on the situation where I was. Of course, academia is meant for a lot of people, but I thought it's not meant for me. I wanted fixed hours of work, like 8 hours of work, and I did not want to work on the weekends. As a PhD or postdoc, you cannot really control when you are working. Sometimes you have to also work at odd hours or putting in a lot more hours than is mentioned in your contract. So I was like, yeah, I want a structured life, and I thought, yeah, industry would be better in that way. Also, the pay is good, so
And how difficult was it or challenging was it to obtain a job outside the university or research center? What skills are absolutely non negotiable while making this transition? I mean, you had some time as a postdoc probably to develop the skills, but if somebody wants to transition to industry directly after the PhD, what should a PhD student start learning or practicing from very early days if they want to transition to industry right after a PhD?
yeah, this is a very good question because yeah, I do not want people to repeat the mistake that I did. So when I was doing my PhD, I only got this idea to shift into industry at the end of my PhD. So at that time, I didn't have the time to prepare myself, and I understood that it's difficult to make this transition from academy to industry just like that. You have to really prepare yourself. So there are two things. If you want to go into a scientist position directly after PhD, I thought during my application process that when a company is asking for a scientist position, they are looking for very specific things. For example, they want that you have done a very specific method, a specific experiment. If you are not doing that thing, then they would not take you because they would have other candidates who would have done exactly that method. So it's very difficult to find as a scientist. Of course, I'm not discouraging anyone. So you have to look a lot, and there might be a match. But for me, it was difficult to find a specific match. They wanted very, very specific experiments, very, very specific methods, which I did not do. So applying to scientist positions became a bit difficult that way. And for other positions, like clinical research or project management positions in Germany, you would need German. So, because if you are completely changing your field, you are getting in at an entry level job. So, and most of the entry level jobs, as I see, they had this preference for German because you're working with a local team, especially in clinical research when you're starting. So, you're starting with a local team, and German was important. So, when I was applying at the end of my PhD, I was either seeing that, oh, for scientist positions, they need very specific things which I haven't done. And if I want to look for other positions apart from scientific positions, so change my career track a bit, there most of these job applications wanted German. Or, for example, a very specific course like a project management course and all, or experience in project management, things like that. And I had none. So my German skills were only like A1 or A2 skills. That was not enough. And I did not do any course at that time. Yeah, apart from this pharma blue belt course, but that was supposedly not enough because again, this they wanted someone German speaking in this uh, pharma sector. Uh, so as an entry level job, because this is a completely new job and you don't have experience as a PhD student. So yeah, so this was a bit difficult for me. So when I transitioned into postdoc, I started preparing myself to get into the industry position to it. So it took quite some time for to prepare myself and then get a job. So I started learning German. So I learned German during my postdoc. I did until B2 level during my postdoc, and then I also started doing hands-on project management and did project management courses offered by the career service in DKF said, and different other courses I did, and then I was finally eligible for a job in Germany. So my first job was of course an entry level job because I was changing my career track completely to clinical research, and yeah, entry level job was in German, so then German helped. So it took some time to prepare myself and then get a job. So maybe it's easier in an English speaking country because at least you don't have to learn a new language. But in Germany, to be like fully job ready, I would say it's good if you know German. It makes your job search easier because then you can also apply to many other jobs which you won't be able to apply if you don't know German.
Actually, you answered a lot of following questions about the requirement of German. So, can you mention a few roles that typically require a strong command in German or maybe a fluent German speaking role?
Let me start with the clinical research part because that's what I'm doing right now. Um, so these are the site or patient facing roles. So, for example, when you have to talk to the hospitals or clinics and all these roles, because hospitals and clinics, so the nurses will not talk to you in English, or most of the nurses wouldn't be comfortable talking in English. They would require that you know German. For example, when I started as an in-house CRA, so I had to contact the sites, I had to talk to them, I had to explain things to them. So this was all in German with the nurses. So in-house CRA is a bit more experienced than in-house CRA. The CRS has to travel to clinics and hospitals, and of course they have to talk face to face with doctors, with nurses, and explain things to them. So that of course needs Germans. Then regulatory rules. For example, when you are applying for a license or when you are applying to the ethics committees for a clinical research because you need to have the approval and these ethics committees in Germany they would only accept your application in German. So for that, and to know the regulations, rules and regulations in Germany for pharma sector and all, you need German because these are in German. These rules and regulations are in German. So if you are working in the regulatory sector, then you of course need German. And then managerial rules. For example, most companies in Germany, if you are in a project management role, they would require German because you would have to talk to people who many of these people would not be comfortable speaking in English because you do not, for example, do not need English. Yeah, I mean, you might have to talk in English to other people, other international people in global teams and all. But then on one hand, you're talking to these international people. On the other hand, you're talking to a local team. Yeah, and you are an interface. Of course, if you want to become a teacher in Germany, professor in university, of course, also in academia, you would finally need German.
Okay, thank you so much. And since you are already working for 5 years, I would assume that you are eligible for permanent residency. Can you elaborate on your experience in this regard if you have already applied for residency or how long did it take for you? How long did you have to wait?
So I'm living in Germany for more than 10 more than 10 years now. So I have a citizenship now. But I previously I also had a permanent resident permit. And this was the Niederlassungserlaubnis. It was also easy to apply. It did not take that much time, some months. And yeah, usually if you are fulfilling all the criteria, it should not be a problem. You will get it. So citizenship process that for that you need definitely B2 level and you have to appear for a test and Bürgerings test. Um, it's not a very difficult test. You have to read a little bit about the uh, history and other things of Germany, constitution and things like that. It's also easily available on the internet. So yeah, PR took a few months, I think. For citizenship, I had to wait for 1 year.
Okay. Yeah, I think citizenship, the processing times are getting reduced in some cities. Online processing is implemented, and for example, in Berlin, it is possible to get citizenship in under 3 months. So that's really cool. But it is really, really extremely surprising or to think about how citizenship rules for immigrants or the process of application for permanent residence in Germany versus US. It's completely, dream, I would say impossible situation to imagine. Getting a green card in the US is a kind of a war, getting into a war, thousands and thousands of dollars, and then a lot of waiting time, and citizenship is, I wouldn't even talk about it. But yeah, that's great that in Germany, at least after working for several years, um, it is not difficult to get rewarded in terms of staying here longer and fulfilling our dreams or realizing our dreams here, living for a longer term. Do you have any recommendations from your experience for doctoral or postdoctoral candidates which you think would make life easier for them here?
Yeah, you are very correct in saying that it is very easy in Germany to get a PR or a citizenship compared to other countries. For example, let's take as an example what happens in the US. It's really difficult in the US. I have friends in the US, and I know they are really struggling for a long time to get a green card. And for me, it was like very easy. You have to stay 8 years for a citizenship in Germany, and yeah, the process is very easy. So this is a very good thing to know for people like us, immigrants like us, that you will be assimilated in this country after a few years. That's not a problem. My advice to PhD and postdoc would be in Germany. So I'm just taking Germany into consideration, that start preparing yourself for the future. um, and try to make a decision early on. Yeah, if you're waiting for a long time, then you at the end you are losing time. And then because that's what happened to me, that I decided towards the end of my PhD, and at that time I was not prepared. So it took for me to get an industry job than it would have taken if I was prepared from the beginning. So I would say learn German. I tell everyone who comes to Germany, even if you think that you do not need German, of course, as a PhD, you will not feel the need, but it opens a lot of avenues for you if you know German. So yeah, prepare from the beginning, learn German, and if you want to make a switch to the industry, you start preparing yourself in that way. You also have to think in which track you are going to go. If you are going to yeah, join a scientist position in an industry, then start developing skills in that way. Read the job descriptions and try to see which skills are highly rated. Try to get an experience in those skills. If you want to change your track and go from a scientist position to a completely different field of work, then you try to get some experience in that way. Or as I said, you can you can take an entry level job if you want to change your track. These are basically my suggestions to people.
Thanks a lot, Deblina, for sharing with us a bucket full of information today. I really wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Bidisha. Thank you so much. It was very nice to talk to you about this whole process. It also brought back a lot of memories for me. And I really hope that I could help people who aspiring PhD and postdoc who are aspiring to do their job here in Germany and trying to settle down here. And yeah, if there are some more doubts, some more questions, I'm always happy to help. Thank you.